Today, a brief video on a filming I viewed of a performance of Siegfried, the third opera in Wagner's Ring cycle. It was performed and recorded in 1990 at the Metropolitan Opera in New York. I'm hardly an opera aficionado, but I have enjoyed certain opera films as an intriguing spectacle. There is much to describe in Siegfried's plot, but it does require a backstory of the two previous Ring operas, so I've borrowed the IMDb plot synopsis very lazily. A young man named Siegfried, raised by the dwarf Mime, finds the pieces of a magic sword and goes on a quest to experience fear for the first time, all part of a plan set forth by the god Wotan. Nice. It is worth noting that this story is rooted in the Germanic myth of the warrior Sigurd, and particularly its Norse rendition. I'll read aloud to you a review I found, published in the New York Times upon this opera's performance in 1990. There was little acknowledgement of Good Friday at the Metropolitan Opera. Continuing this spring's reenactment of last season's new Ring productions, the Met played the third of Wagner's four operas in the cycle, Siegfried. On one of the holiest of Christian days, it was at first curious to follow on stage the progress of one of paganism's more boorish bullies. Indeed, Siegfried is not particularly celebrated for his interest in the Golden Rule, nor for his capacity for enlightened forgiveness, let alone tenderness. Yet, wrapped in Wagner's powerful music, these recitations of greed, lust, and violence take on their own kind of beatification. The woodland rustlings of Act 2 and Act 3 sexually charged exaltations made their customary effect on Friday. The wonder of Wagner is how he can make even the most ardent Christian accept such repugnant subject matter with awe. One would have expected the Met Orchestra under James Levine to have done its best work at the beginning of this 5.5-hour performance. Actually, the reverse occurred, intonation sounding exceedingly weary early on, the orchestra playing exceptionally well toward the end. The wind soloists and the forest murmurs had a wonderful, elegant clarity, and Brunhilde's awakening was surrounded by instrumental support of great power. Act 1 was carried by Heinz Zednik, a splendid mime capable of capturing with great precision the fretful fear and malice with which Wagner entrusts him. Mr. Zednik's tight, lean tenor is always at the service of his character. He reminded us opera's true aspiration, that music making and acting become a single process. Yet Siegfried fully came to life with the appearance of Hildegard Behrens in Act 3. She was a touching Brunhilde, incorporating in a very different context Mr. Zednik's earlier virtues. Miss Behrens' big, gleaming soprano embraced this huge hall as if it were a space of much smaller dimensions. In her presence alone, she also has the powers of projection that convey exuberance and passion and make them seem intimate. The title role caused the usual problems. Indeed, the Siegfrieds of the current opera would constitute a fraternity of the walking wounded, and in the manner of his colleague, Siegfried Jerusalem struggled with the part on Friday. Mr. Jerusalem's tenor operates comfortably within a narrow range. Pushed outward in either direction or asked to sustain volume, it hardens, frays, or all too often crumbles. The musical tension of the final scene was not in Mr. Jerusalem's interpretation, but in listener anxiety over whether he would make it to the end at all. James Morris has settled into the role of the Wanderer. His warmth and reliability are a comforting addition to this production. Birgitta Svenden made a vivid impression in her brief appearance as Erda, with both the voice and the personality to fix the listener's attention. Joy Skyer made an attractive forest bird in her offstage soprano. Strong too were Ekkehard Walashiha as Alberic and Matti Salminen as Fafner. The Met's naturalistic ring, produced by Otto Schenk and designed by Gunther Schneider Siemsen, weds Wagner's contemporary vision of the sophistications of modern stage machinery, including a loathsomely green-blooded Fafner. One can argue with some force that such an approach is more curatorial than relevant to the present, but what the Met has tried to do, it has done well. Well, if you wanted the opinion of someone more versed in opera than I, there it is. I never would have thought to critique the performers themselves. It is quite interesting to hear this perspective. Thank you to Bernard Holland, wherever you are now. But yes, I found the film to be a relaxing experience, albeit grand in its scope. This runs at just over 4 hours in length, so if you'd like to set aside time for it, perhaps wait until a weekend or holiday. I feel as though I ought to quickly address the notable lack of films of the day from my channel. The thing is, I've been very busy with organising a film shoot on the night of the 4th of June. Now that the shoot is done, I've been relaxing and breathing for the first time in some months since I began the arrangements for that night. I will try to catch up with all of the days. I have tried to create a video for each day, for not necessarily on, obviously, since that fateful Tuesday, Australian EST, wherein I uploaded the Escape to Burma video. What a time. Anyway, so that is that, just in case anyone was wondering. Have a wonderful week.